Have you ever stopped to think about how far desire can go? And more importantly, how far it can take you when the line between right and wrong begins to blur. It may seem easy to point fingers and label situations, but the reality is that when you're at the epicenter of a betrayal, everything becomes murky and unpredictable. Betrayal, in its deepest forms, is not just a simple act of infidelity. It shakes everything you know about yourself, your beliefs, your values, and even the strongest bonds of trust. And the most shocking part, when desire mixes with guilt, sin can seem irresistible. But here's the part no one tells you. You're about to discover how these feelings of desire and guilt can take over your life in ways you never imagined. And in the midst of it all, what will your choice be? How do you deal with the consequences of forbidden desire? The answer isn't in others, but in how you choose to face this raw truth. Get ready, because what's coming next will shake your beliefs, your morals, and even your heart. If you've been through something like this or are curious about what really happens when betrayal takes over, leave a like, share with someone you think needs to hear this story, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Turn on the notification bell to stay updated and never let desire and betrayal catch you by surprise again. Ava had always known that her parents' separation wouldn't be easy, but when she found herself at her Uncle Nathan's house, something inside her changed. At first, Nathan's house seemed like the perfect refuge, a place where she could start over. Settling into the room, Ava sought stability, wishing for peace after the emotional turmoil she had gone through. However, as the days passed, an unsettling feeling began to form. The close living arrangements, the daily contact, started to create a space where emotions that hadn't existed before began to surface, and Ava didn't know how to deal with it. The attraction Ava felt for Nathan began subtly, like a thread stretching without her realizing it. It wasn't something she wanted or was looking for, but something that happened without explanation. The simple act of sharing meals and talking about trivial matters turned into something more intense, and she found herself wanting more of Nathan's attention, more of his time. It was as if the space between them was shrinking, and Ava didn't know whether she should pull away or give in to this new sensation that suddenly felt natural. And the worst part? Ava didn't know how to stop. She was falling for someone she shouldn't even consider having feelings for, and the tension between them was becoming palpable. While her mind told her that it was wrong, her heart seemed to do everything to contradict her convictions. That house, which should have been a refuge, had become the fertile ground for something dangerous, and Ava felt like she was about to cross a line that could destroy everything. As the days passed, Ava began to realize that things were changing. The bond with Nathan, once simple and fraternal, was becoming something more. When talking about the old days, about life, about their own feelings, something transformed with each exchanged glance. She didn't know if it was just the loneliness of her new life or if something else was really happening between her and Nathan. What seemed to be simple family living was beginning to turn into a complex friendship and somehow a ground where secret desires were beginning to emerge. Ava's internal conflict grew over time. She knew what was right and what was wrong, or at least she thought she did. However, as she felt more connected to Nathan, that line became more and more blurred. The attraction she had once ignored began to gain strength, and with it, questions arose about how far desire could go without breaking both their moralities. Is it worth risking everything for something so wrong? Ava wondered, with a mix of fear and fascination. She couldn't stop thinking about Nathan, and that in itself was the biggest sign that she was lost in a dilemma without an answer. The forbidden desire seemed to grow every day, like a flame that no one could put out. And Ava found herself, little by little, surrendering to this new and dangerous feeling. She knew it could destroy her relationship with her family, with her own principles, but at the same time, the idea of resisting seemed impossible. What had started as simple living was turning into a spiral of feelings neither of them could control. But the worst was yet to come, and Ava had no idea how far her choices would take her. One night, Ava felt an internal pressure that she could no longer ignore. She knew she couldn't continue like this, without understanding her own feelings, without confronting what was happening between her and Nathan. The desire was becoming unbearable, like an invisible force pulling her closer to him. And that night, in an impulse she didn't even know where it came from, she made her decision. Ava entered Nathan's room while he was sleeping, her steps light, but her heart heavy with uncertainty. When she approached him, it wasn't just her body that moved, but her soul, in a desperate search for an answer. The kiss was intense, overwhelming, yet confusing. For Ava, it wasn't just a feeling of ecstasy, but an avalanche of conflicting emotions. Her mind told her to stop, to get out of that situation and never look back. But her heart, the traitor, asked for more. And in that kiss, Ava felt that all the barriers she had tried to build throughout her life crumbled, revealing the vulnerability and chaos that existed within her. There, between kisses and sighs, the line between right and wrong completely disappeared. Now, things had changed irreversibly. Ava and Nathan could no longer pretend that nothing had happened. They could no longer go back to where they started. Confusion overtook Ava, and a feeling of guilt swallowed her. She questioned herself. How did this happen? What does this mean for her life? For the future of her family? That kiss wasn't just the breaking of a boundary, but the beginning of a journey that they were both about to face, without knowing where it would lead them. And the worst was yet to come. When Victoria entered the house, the air seemed to shift. Nathan was visibly tense, and Ava felt a lump in her throat, not knowing what to expect. However, to her surprise, Victoria's reaction wasn't what she feared. Instead of explosions of anger or furious accusations, Victoria showed something unexpected, a posture of understanding. It was as if she had read both of their hearts, suggesting that they all faced the situation with honesty, without hiding anything. The only way to resolve this, she said calmly, is by being completely truthful with each other, no matter how difficult it may be. Ava, speechless, looked at Nathan and felt the tension between them grow. But what was happening? Why was Victoria, instead of being furious, so calm and measured? Her proposal seemed challenging, almost radical. Set aside the lies, face this, and work it out, she continued, as if the weight of betrayal was something that could be solved with sincere words. Deep down, Ava felt like an outsider in all of this. She wasn't used to dealing with the direct confrontation of emotions. But Victoria's attitude made her question what she truly wanted and what the healthiest path forward would be. The situation was far from simple, but now the emotional game of hide and seek seemed to be coming to an end. Victoria, unknowingly, was challenging not only Ava and Nathan, but the entire system of beliefs and social norms they had followed up until then. The idea of being honest and resolving everything so directly seemed absurd, but maybe it was the only way to deal with what was happening. But, as they all knew, the truth could be liberating but also devastating. Over time, Ava and Nathan began to reflect deeply on everything that had happened. There was no longer a way to ignore the consequences of their actions, and both knew that life would never be the same. Guilt consumed them, but at the same time, there was a flame of desire that remained alive, forcing them to face the reality before them. The future was uncertain, and the choices they would make next could change not only their lives, but also the family relationships they had built over the years. The dilemma was clear: move forward, facing the consequences of betrayal, or try to rebuild something, perhaps based on honesty and the sacrifices that would be required. The search for truth seemed like the only way to deal with the conflicting feelings that now dominated them. However, the reality was that any path they chose would be painful, and the wounds caused by infidelity and betrayal might never fully heal. They were at a turning point where the decisions to be made would have a profound impact on the future of everyone involved. Despite all the confusion and pain, Ava and Nathan felt there was an opportunity for a fresh start. Honesty seemed to be the only way to face the consequences of betrayal, but the price would be high. They knew they couldn't go back, and what remained was to decide how they would face the new chapter of their lives. The future was still uncertain, but there was a small spark of hope, suggesting that perhaps resolution could be found through painful sincerity and a willingness to confront the truth. Now that you know the ups and downs of this journey filled with forbidden desires and moral dilemmas, I ask you, what would your choice be in the same situation? What would you do when the line between right and wrong begins to blur? Life is full of moments where we're challenged to make decisions that shape our future in ways we could never predict. But the most important thing is what you do with those lessons. They are the key to your next step, to the change you've been seeking. So, if you've connected with this content, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you were in the character's shoes? And more, subscribe to the channel, like, and share this video with someone who needs to reflect on the consequences of their own desires. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next videos that could transform the way you see life and your choices.